We just needed a little break from everything. Thank you.
Why not?
That was fun.
Love watching people watch ping pong.
Yeah.
All right, let's do some Wednesday afternoon quarterbacking, talking about the results from New Hampshire, a look ahead to South Carolina. Joining us today, Newsmax contributor Kevin Broderick. Also joining us, Democratic strategist Steven Lesser. He's also the host of Making Sense with Steven Lesser, available on select radio outlets across the country. All right, gentlemen, let's run through the list. The GOP candidates, starting with Donald Trump.
Yeah, according to exit polls, Trump received 36% of the independent vote in New Hampshire. New Hampshire allows undeclared voters to vote in either party's primary, and that helped Trump a lot, considering they made up about 44% of the electorate this year. Now, Marco Rubio, who's trying to dust off his fifth-place finish in New Hampshire, well, he made a little trip to South Carolina, probably a smart move. He got some love from two of his endorsers, Congressman Trey Gowdy and Senator Tim Scott. Rubio also tried to win the love of the crowd by sending a little chin music towards Ted Cruz.
We need a president that gets rid of Obamacare. Not just talks about getting rid of Obamacare, actually does something about it. I'm the only one running for president that has ever done anything against Obamacare meaningful. Not a speech, wasn't like a 22-hour speech. It was actually something that we did. And I did it without a press conference. I did it without fanfare. We led the effort and we wiped out the bailout fund that's in Obamacare. That we're going to use $2 billion of your money to bail out private insurance companies. And we got rid of it. And you know what we're going to do when I'm president? We're going to get rid of the rest of Obamacare and we're going to put you in charge of your health insurance.
I don't know, but I kept counting how many times he said Obamacare. Kevin, will this work for Rubio? Will get people excited to actually see him?
Well, I think it's good that he's showing some life and being aggressive here because of the debate performance that really hurt him in the New Hampshire primary. I don't know that it's going to get him a lot of traction. It seems like all the Republicans are running on a platform against Obamacare, so this isn't anything new. The reality is it's going to come down to how good his ground game is in South Carolina. Can he pull out a second-place finish ahead of Kasich, Cruz, and Bush? And I don't know that we're going to see that. It looks like he's going into that primary fairly wounded.
All right, Stephen, let's talk about Senator Ted Cruz a little bit. He, today, talking to reporters, blasted Fox News for their coverage of Marco Rubio's third-place finish in Iowa. He says he's hoping to get the same kind of treatment after his third-place finish in New Hampshire. Take a listen.
Well, I am looking forward to a week of wall-to-wall coverage on Fox News at the impressive third-place finish which Marco Rubio got, so I'm sure that's what we're going to see on every show on Fox today, the shockingly impressive third-place finish of Cruz.
Ted Cruz has mastered the art of sarcasm,
yes,
perhaps.
Quite well.
All right, so Stephen, let's talk about this. You think we're seeing a preview of what is about to happen? We know that there's going to be a battle between Jeb Bush and John Kasich. Cruz and Marco Rubio, are things about to get pretty ugly there?
Well, I don't think that Jeb Bush really has much to offer. You know, I have been talking to Republicans and watching their discussions online. There is absolutely nothing about Jeb Bush that appeals to them, and I'm not sure Kasich can do a whole lot better. You know, I would love to make this some sort of a horse race somewhere, but I think Donald Trump really is the nominee at this point. I don't think anybody can come from anywhere and get him.
I think it's interesting, though, to hear those two sound bites we just played where Cruz obviously throwing some shade at Marco Rubio and the Marco Rubio throwing some shade back at Ted Cruz as opposed to attacking Donald Trump. It seemed like they're scared a little bit, Stephen.
Almost like they're playing for vice president, too. I think that, and I think that Ted Cruz might offer something to Donald Trump there, shoring up the conservative base. Marco Rubio might offer something to him. It's really interesting how that all is going to shake out, though. I thought Ted Cruz would do a little bit better in New Hampshire. I really did. But whatever it is that makes New Hampshire unique. I mean, look what happened on the side. Whatever makes them unique just did not do it for Cruz.
Kevin, I want to get your reaction. Today, earlier, we announced that Chris Christie was dropping out. Same with Carly Fiorina, and that Jeb Bush and Rubio were actually really hoping that it would have been Kasich because they were hoping to pull some of the support that he was getting over to their side. Who do you think benefits the most at all from Chris Christie dropping out or Carly Fiorina?
I would say Jeb Bush definitely benefits the most from that because he was pulling from the, they were pulling from the same exact voter base. Second on that list would probably be John Kasich and then Rubio. But those two governors, if you were looking at Chris Christie, you were looking at him because you liked his honesty and because he was a governor. And the other two candidates in the race that have that going for them are Kasich and Bush. So I think they're going to see a little bit of a bump from that. What they really need to do is coalesce around one of these candidates to be a viable third alternative to the Trump-Cruz campaign right now, because right now you're looking at those two candidates taking about 55% of the votes, 35-20. You've got another 50% out there. If they keep splitting them, they're going to keep losing primaries.
Yeah, it's even up to 60% in some counts. But Stephen, who would you rather be in this situation, Jeb Bush or John Kasich? Bush has got all the money, but Kasich has a little bit of momentum coming out of New Hampshire.
I would definitely rather be Kasich. It's just such a distaste in the Republican electorate for Jeb Bush. I'm really surprised, as a Democrat, I'm really surprised and actually kind of happy to see that, but I'm just surprised that
well, it's similar for what the country feels about Hillary Clinton, is it not?
You know, unfortunately, as a Hillary supporter, I do have to say that there is a little bit about that, but I think she almost has a little bit more room to maneuver there than Jeb does. There's just, particularly among her own party, I think Jeb just has this perception among grassroots Republicans that he's not one of them, that he's a rhino, and I think they're sick of rhinos. I think they felt that the last two Republican nominees were rhinos, and they don't want to do that again.
Really, rhino. Kevin, do you agree with that?
I don't really agree with that, because for the 8 years as he served as governor of the great state of Florida, he was very, very conservative and did some great things for the state of Florida and was effective working across the aisle. So I don't necessarily agree that he's a rhino. I think he's running into some headwinds in South Carolina, because that is a fairly conservative primary base. I think if I were advising Jeb, I would say you got to pull out all stops. Call your brother George W. and tell him to get out on the campaign trail. I think it's been a long time since W's been in office. His approval ratings are very good outside of office right now, and after 7.5 years of Obama, people are looking back at George W.'s presidency and saying, you know what, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, and also, too, we've been hearing Jeb say, I am not my brother. If not directly, but indirectly. The wrong Bush is saying that. George Bush should be the one coming out there and saying,
yeah, you might have a point
I'm
there.
Not, Jeb is not me and I'm not Jeb. Jeb has his record to stand on.
And John, it's to his own fault sometimes, because George W. was a better campaigner and better on the stump. So, Jeb really isn't his brother when it comes to a lot of stuff that he might need to be his brother.
Some anyway. Some people do.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I think it's interesting in the beginning there where he seemed to kind of shy away. He still has those Jeb signs, like shy away from his family.
Well, it's obvious. He didn't use his last name.
He didn't use his last name,
right.
and kind of wouldn't really acknowledge his family as much. He didn't bring up his
remember
brother. He
his
didn't bring up
speech.
certain things. And now you see his mother. His 90-year-old mother has been joining him.
Remember his speech, his announcement speech, too, where he specifically said, I am my own man.
Yes.
Right? Different, you got to adjust out
with the
there.
Bush last name and my whole family here.
Embrace it.
All right, folks, stick around. We got much more to come. We're going to talk about Democrats, Stephen. I hope you didn't feel too left out. Bernie Sanders pulled out a big win over Hillary Clinton. All right, I'm gonna say this just one more time. Maybe
Go ahead.
Is she feeling the burn? I had to say it. We're coming back.
Welcome back to Newsmax Now. Hillary Clinton may still be the Democratic frontrunner.
Yeah, but now that the New Hampshire results are final, you could make the case that the first in the nation primary loss looks even worse today. And it's not just the numbers we are talking about. Specifically, if you look at the demographics of the loss, pretty damaging.
Yeah, as of right now, it appears Clinton, well, she may be having some women troubles. An NBC News exit poll shows more women, 55% voted for Bernie Sanders over Clinton in New Hampshire. And not just any women, younger women. So what's that magic age that separates these two Democratic contenders? Any guesses?
45.
How'd you know? You cheated. 45 to be exact. According to an ABC News exit poll, when it comes to women over the age of 45, Clinton dominates. In this case, she won 56% of the vote. But Sanders stole the spotlight from Clinton for women under 45, taking away 69% of the vote.
That's not good.
No, not. And Bernie Sanders may take away another key demographic from Clinton, the African-American vote. Today, Sanders met with the Reverend Al Sharpton. Now, while Sharpton says he hasn't decided who he will endorse, it could play a key factor in the South Carolina primary. And back now for part two of our roundtable, Newsmax contributor Kevin Broderick also joining us again, Democratic strategist Steven Lesser. He is also the host of Making Sense with Steve Lesser, available on select radio outlets all across the country. Thanks, gentlemen, for sticking around. So let's take a look now at the delegates, the total delegates for the Democrats. Hillary Clinton has 394. That number includes super delegates. They're basically free agents who can support any candidate they want. at the party's convention. They only have them in the Democratic Party. Now, meanwhile, Bernie Sanders has about 42 delegates. 2,382, to be exact, are needed for the nomination. 4,763 are still up for grabs.
All right, so maybe a little bit misleading at this early stage of the game. We still want to keep an eye on the delegate count. But, Stephen, this meeting today with Bernie Sanders and Al Sharpton, South Carolina, the minority vote, black vote, is very important. Hillary Clinton supposedly has it all locked up. Do you see that changing, though?
Because of the size of the victory, and look, I'm a Hillary Clinton supporter, but because of the size of the victory, it could change. I just wonder if, New Hampshire being such a white state, whether, the African Americans and Latinos in South Carolina are going to look at that and say, why should that affect how I vote? And I'm not sure that even if, for instance, Al Sharpton endorses
how about the
Bernie,
trustworthy numbers, too? How about Hillary Clinton's terrible trustworthiness numbers?
Yeah, that's
well, I think those are sort of built in already to the current to the current numbers that we're seeing. I think she takes South Carolina by 15 to 20 points even after New Hampshire, and I think that the campaign will continue on pretty well for her after that point. What I'm interested in seeing, though, I have to say, now that Bernie Sanders has won New Hampshire, will he actually be vetted? Will people start taking a close look at him? Because as somebody who wants a Democratic nominee to be president, I'm been a delegate for the Social Workers Party, honeymoon in the Soviet Union, all those things that people are talking about. A fan of
but
the
that's all out there,
stuff.
Kevin. Let's bring you into this conversation here. Bernie Sanders, the issue of him being vetted. We know the Clinton campaign certainly tried to do that in spades over the last week in New Hampshire with this issue, trying to hit him for everything. Chelsea Clinton started to do it a couple of weeks ago, but nothing seems to stick to Bernie Sanders. Do you think he could be subject to more serious attacks that might actually hurt him? Things like the honeymoon in the Soviet Union, which did actually happen.
Not at all. I think that whatever you want to throw at Bernie Sanders, his messaging is cutting right through those attacks. And the problem with the Clinton campaign is there is no messaging. And this is the type of situation where after New Hampshire, voters, particularly in like a South Carolina, people like voting for a winner. And Hillary Clinton doesn't look like a winner. She looks like she's on the down. And Bernie Sanders looks like he's on the up. I'm not saying that Bernie Sanders is going to be able to pull some miraculous comeback, but I think he can cut this thing a little bit, much closer than what the polls were saying prior to New Hampshire. I think he might have a single-digit loss here. And a single-digit loss here is a huge win in South Carolina from where he started. The reality is the Clinton support, and we saw this in 2008 amongst the African-American community, is a mile wide and an inch deep. And if Bernie Sanders can get some key endorsements, you'll see a big cut into that because people like voting for a winner or what's perceived as a winner who's got a clear message.
Yeah, we keep bringing up message. Stephen, I want to ask you, is the problem with Hillary, is it the message or is it the messenger?
Probably a little bit of both. I mean, if I'm being completely critical of her, obviously she's taken a lot of attacks for Republicans over the last 25 years. Some of that has hurt her. And her message essentially is, look, I'm the competent candidate for president. I know how to do the job. My record shows that. And that perhaps isn't as exciting as I'm going to give you free tuition or, I'm going to give you free health care or all these other things that Bernie Sanders is saying, which he quite frankly can't deliver with a Republican House. And that's a more difficult message, again, to give folks than here, I'm giving you free stuff.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of the Obama supporters who did not get enough of a progressive agenda, and they don't see that coming from Hillary Clinton, so they're turning to Bernie Sanders, too.
I honestly think that the next shoe to drop, though, is if those the transcripts of those speeches come out, the Goldman Sachs and some of the other banks, could be a huge deal. I have a blog on Newsmax on that right now. It's like the 47% moment for Hillary Clinton.
It very well may be, Ken. We talked about it a lot. We'll have you back. We can talk about that more because we don't think that issue's going away. But, gentlemen, thanks so much for being with us. And, Stephen, next time you come back, you have to explain this whole superdelegate thing. It's just a little weird. Right?
Will do, sure.
All right.
Sure.
Only Democrats have these super delegates.
Coming up next, we'll talk about all the candidates and their cash flow. Who has the most money? Well, the answer may surprise you. That's coming up right after the break. Plus, we always want to hear from you. Tell us what you think about last night's primary. And did you see that pig video? Sure you did. Let us know what you think about it.